Oh my God.
What's happening now?
Sorry about that. I was having technical difficulties getting my Wi-Fi situated. Hello, Joseph. How are you? I'm gonna wait until some people get in here. But getting Wi-Fi figured out was a nightmare. What up? Nice to see all of you. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, Jonathan. Merry Christmas, Samantha. What's up, Don? Palabra. That you're too high. The LA is definitely not upside down, weirdo. So, for tonight's program, we have big raffle, a lot of used pocket buttholes to give away, signed memorabilia, and my dad is sitting in the room, so is my best friend, and maybe we can get both of them to come say hello to you on this very fine Christmas evening. So I'm just gonna wait until some more people get in here. No, it's not upside down. You're tripping. You're tripping, Jason. LA is not upside down. Yes, it is upside down. My fiance gave that to me for Christmas. It's called a Kill the Hype hat. And the guy that prints them, he does it like twice a year, and they like sell out within an hour. I've wanted this hat for a long time, and my girl got it for me, so I'm very happy about that. Merry Christmas, David. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate all you. There's still time to get in on the raffle. If you do a donation right now, I can add you to the slots. So if you send something right now, I can add you to the raffle. And if you don't, then that's on you. It's really funny, JM503. What's wrong with your Christmas, Rachel? All right. Well, if nobody wants to get in on the raffle, I guess I can just start with the existing stuff. It doesn't matter if you donate $5. Yeah, I'm still taking subs. 3 8mg strips a day. All right. You don't. There. It doesn't need to be an amount. You can do $5. You can do $10. You can do whatever, and I'll add you to the list. All right. All right. Well, maybe we'll wait. Dad, do you wanna come say hello to everyone?
Well, where should I go?
Come right here. My dad's gonna come say hello while more people come. Here is the illustrious Frank from Frank Fridays.
Where should I go? On the chair
Sit
here?
on the chair, yeah.
Okay.
Who just
Oh, there we
donated?
go.
All
There we
right,
go.
all right. So,
Okay.
Mark, I got
That's-
you. I will write.
Hello, everybody.
You see the comments?
Let's see what we got here. Sup, Frank? Hello there, Frank. Hello, Frank. You're awesome. Frank, you're the handsomest dude I've ever seen in my life.
Now, Dad, you're not supposed to read all this shit back to these people. They know what you're saying.
Well, the handsome dude thing, I had no choice.
They can see what you're saying.
Okay. So now what? Is everybody just going to look at me?
No,
Merry
you
Christmas.
you say stuff. I know it's shit gets weird when it gets live. I know. I get frozen up too.
Oh, I didn't understand the how the deal worked. Okay, hello everybody. Merry Christmas wherever you are. If you can type in comments, let me know where you're from. I found it really interesting in some of the comments, the incredible diversity of places on the planet, literally, that are tuning in to my Frank Fridays, and I'm sure to all Ryan's things as well. So I'd love to see some. Oh my God, they're pouring in now. Okay, all over the place. My gosh. Yeah, I see a lot of Chicago's. I love Chicago. I've spent an incredible amount of time in Chicago, primarily downtown. Anybody there that knows the old Sutton Place Hotel, that's where I always stayed, and it's now called the Thompson, and super city. Maybe not so much in December and January, but still a great place.
I've only been to Chicago once, and I was in federal custody on a bus, and they took me through the city, and it made me sad to be in custody the only time I've ever been to Chicago. It looked like a cool city.
It is.
All right,
Great
Brett,
city.
I see you. Brett White and Don Haynes. You guys have been added to the raffle. I'm gonna let a few more people get in here, and then I'll do the raffle. But my dad can keep talking to you.
Well, I don't know what to say except that I love the diversity. I love this technology. Two of the presents that I got from Ryan today for Christmas were books about YouTube. So, in short order, I'm going to be the second family member who's an expert on this technology, and I'm just really amazed how powerful it is. Really, I really think it's not only the wave of the future. I think it's very hot right now, but I can literally see just in a couple of years where it's going to be potentially the major medium replacing cable TV for getting information out to people. So I'm impressed, and I really enjoyed my rookie-like participation in it.
So tell them about what we do today for Christmas.
Well, it was real special because Ryan hasn't been with the family nearly enough Christmases as
Tell
we
them
would
tell them
like.
the analytics you did today, the prison analytics.
I did some analytics prior to today, just made today so much more special. But the previous 15 Christmases, the information I have is that Ryan was in custody 8 of those 15. So more than half of the previous Christmases he was incarcerated. And then of the other 7, quite a number of those years, he was in various residential rehab programs. So that took a hunk of time as well. And then one year we had
Thank you, Chuck.
we
I
had
see you.
one of Ryan's women. I won't mention what her name was, but a number of years ago, and she sort of freaked out. It was a very strange
Thank you,
Christmas
lab
here in the
girl.
house. So there hasn't been that many genuine Christmases that we've had, and this is even more special. Not only is Ryan home with us, we're up in Santa Barbara. He's in West Covina, but his son Nico, who's now 20 months old and is getting taller and more interesting as a human being every time we see him, was here. So it really was an old-fashioned Christmas with a big tree and enormous numbers of presents that were exchanged by all of us. Karina's here as well. And then we had just a wonderful dinner also. So it's been a special day. And not incidentally, it's raining very hard outside, which in Santa Barbara is very important. We don't get a lot of rain. So at this very moment, what is it, 8:30 at night on Christmas night, it is raining hard outside. So that's sort of the icing on the Christmas cake that we're dealing with. So anyway, I'm going to turn it back to Ryan. And again, I look forward to, we're going to be recording some more Frank Fridays in the next day or two, and I look forward to continuing to be part of that. It's been a real fun ride for me so far. So look forward to all of it. But again, to everybody that's tuning in, finding time on Christmas night, wherever you may be, I know Ryan appreciates it. I do as well. So goodbye to everybody, and a very Merry Christmas. And I'll probably be hearing from me, or you'll be hearing from me again before the New Year's. But let's hope that 2020 is a super special year for everybody. So goodbye, everybody.
Yeah. Round of applause for Frank. Wonderful, man. All right, so I'm gonna do the raffle now. We got good shit. We got giving away 3 pocket buttholes, signed copies of my book, signed Bully DVD, Nick Stahl. Signed Hollywood Vampire album by Johnny Depp, signed Fight Club DVD, and then an executive summary signed by the whole cast of the film adaptation of my novel. That's the grand prize. A couple blotters, Recovery from Blow, signed by Mirtha and Christina. There's like 12 prizes. So you guys can, if you still donate right now, you can get in on the raffle. The deal was, I think like 3 or 4 days ago, I said anyone that donated in the time that I said I'd put in there, and I added like 22 names, something like that. Right before we get into the raffle. I just want to bring people up to date on everything else. So I know that Paul passing away kind of derailed me. I had a lot of momentum. It seemed like I was posting every day. I was doing lives every Sunday, and I started doing the album. And then when Paul died, it just fucked me up. I got really depressed. I couldn't get out of bed for a couple weeks. I was just kind of laying in bed reading books, and thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. I'm an only child. I don't have any brothers or sisters, and Paul was the closest thing I had to a brother. Really. He never missed holidays. He would always call me on Christmas. Like today it felt weird not getting a call from him on Christmas. And I'm not like a guy that cries a lot, but definitely when I got the news that he died, I broke down crying. Thank you, Sawyer. Thank you, Andrew. The way that it happened is I just got a new phone maybe like a month ago, and I didn't transfer the contacts. And it was like a Tuesday morning at like 8 a.m. and I started getting a bunch of calls at like 8 in the morning. And it was from an 831 number. 831 is Monterey's area code. I thought it was a telemarketer. And then Paul's fiance, Sophia, called me from Facebook. She did like a Facebook call. And her voice, she's like, "Hey, Ryan, it's Sophia. Are you okay?" And she asked me if I was okay, and her voice was trembling. I already knew I already knew we lost him. And she said that, she's like, "Hey, Paul's not with us anymore." And it literally hit me like it was like a physical blow to the head. I felt like I got punched. It was just like it was just a shock. It's a shock wave just like reverberated through my whole body. And I started like howling and crying. And when I got out of prison in March, one of the first things that I did is I went up to Northern California and I did an interview with some of my friends and family that live up there. So I got to do an interview with Paul. Now, my fiance, Karina, is like a hardcore alcoholic. She's in recovery. She's got a couple years right now. And Paul wanted to be respectful that day. So this was back in April. And he didn't want to drink around her. So he ended up taking 20 Valiums for the interview. I mean, 20 Valiums is a significant amount of benzos to take. And he was in bad shape, and he gave this really, he was, you couldn't understand him. Everything he said was almost like babble. It was really sad to see him in that state. I'd never seen him like that, and he was shaking, and he just was, he was pale as a ghost. And that was back in April. So I got an interview for the documentary with Paul that day, but like I said, he had taken 20 Valiums. He was pale. He was like really bad on alcohol at the time, physically dependent. He's the kind of guy that was like drinking a handle of vodka every single day. He wasn't like a big drug guy, only because he couldn't afford it. He wasn't working. So it was like sporadic, he'd shoot heroin or shoot meth when he could. It was like when the opportunity presented itself. And he had overdosed a number of times over the last 6 months or so, and every time he overdosed, he'd call me and be like, "Hey, I went out last night, I'm in the hospital," whatever the case. And I knew that we were going to lose Paul. Even though I knew that I was going to lose him, it didn't, it just didn't ebb the shock of it at all. I've never felt a loss like that. It was just really bad. It was like losing a family member. I don't even know how to describe it. So anyway, that put me out of commission. And right before he had passed away, I started recording my first album of short stories that I was talking about back in October. And I think I wanted to put it out on Thanksgiving. And what had happened is I wanted to get like, so what that album is, just so that you know, it's me telling stories just like I do in my videos, but there's sound effects on it and there's skits. So like I do a taco skit, I do a country skit, I do a Tom, well I may, bro chop porn, sex riots, all the fucking weirdo shit that I do. I do skits, but then I also have like some celebrity friends doing skits as well. Like I had asked Johnny Depp to do a Hunter S. Thompson skit, and that was back in November, and he told me that he was going to do it, and then it was just complete radio silence after he told me he was going to do it. And I was like really excited that Johnny Depp was going to be on it because I'm such a diehard Hunter S. Thompson fan, A, and B, I idolized Johnny growing up, and just the fact that he was willing to collaborate with me and be involved on a project, I felt like I needed to wait for whenever he was going to give me that specific skit. And he was on an island, so he was having Wi-Fi issues. Then Paul passed away, and Paul had done a guest appearance on the album as well. Thank you, Mike. Mike Speece, I appreciate it. Paul had done a guest appearance on the album as well. And he had left me a message. Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. Paul had left me a message because that a lot of the skits where it's like celebrity guest appearances, I've Boston George, Freeway Ricky Ross, Johnny Depp, Nick Stahl, Dirt Nasty. A lot of the skits, they're like leaving me voicemails, and it's just a bunch of different creative stuff. So I wanted Paul to leave me a voicemail, and he left me one, but it's very like druggy-esque. You know, he's talking about doing drugs. And so I'm in like a weird position with it right now where I want to honor Paul by including him on the album because I know that he really wanted to be involved with it. I know he wanted to be on it. But at the same time, I care about his fiance and I care about his family. And I'm just torn about whether to include that segment on the album or not. And then Johnny Depp finally came through like 3 or 4 days ago. He just randomly texted me and he's like, oh, hey, bro, sorry, here it is. So I got his skit as Hunter S. Thompson. It's fucking awesome. It was definitely worth the wait. I'm torn about including Paul on it. What do you guys think about that? You guys are talking about Kratom. What the fuck is going on? In the comment section. You guys think that I should include? Yeah, I think so too. I think that it's honoring him. And also I know Paul, but like I had told his fiance, I'm like, listen, if it was up to me, I would include Paul. And if I didn't care about your feelings, I would just throw it on there. But the fact of the matter is she's one of my best friends as well. I mean, she was with Paul for 8 years, so I definitely care about her feelings. And she's not a drug addict like Paul. She's an accountant. She's super solid, awesome person. She wasn't like a hardcore junkie like Paul was. So I don't know if she understands that just because he was making a joke out of his addiction, it doesn't mean that he didn't take it seriously or that he didn't know. Like, Paul definitely hated the fact that his heroin addiction and his alcoholism hurt her and hurt his family. But as you know, as drug addicts, we make light of our addiction. We use comedy as a way to like deflect the way that we truly feel about it. We make a joke out of everything. At least that's what my experience has been with addiction. Thank you, Brett. Damn. Good man. I'm a phony and loaded? Okay. You're a phony and loaded. Ooh. Weirdo. Ooh, you're loaded. Ooh, who gives a fuck? Who cares? What if I am? What if I'm not? It doesn't even fucking matter. If you like the content, you like the stories, then watch it. Why you always gotta fucking do your little McGruff, the drug narcotic detective dog homework on me? Like, who cares? Get a fucking life, dude. All right. Yeah, I definitely want to put Paul on it, though, for sure. So anyway, guys, let's get on to the raffle. I'm definitely dedicating the album to Paul, dedicating the documentary to Paul. I'm dedicating June Gloom to Paul. I'll probably honor Paul for the rest of my life with every creative endeavor that I do. Because when we were younger, we were like 18, 19 years old, we always had big like aspirations to make it as filmmakers, make it as artists. I wanted to be a writer, you wanted to be a filmmaker. And we'd always joke that we were going to go to Sundance together and wear like matching like pink gay tuxedos. And you know, now I got the documentary coming out in May. We were really going to do that. We were planning on doing that because it was like a dream we always had, and now he's gone. So definitely every creative project I have from this point forward, I'm going to honor him. Hey, can you go get me my charger, dude?
Where is it?
It's just ask Karina for it. Yeah. So the phone doesn't die. You're a phony and you're loaded. Have I ever had a normal job? Yeah. He deleted it? What a bitch. Alright guys, let's do the raffle. Raffle time. Raffle time. Oh shit. My phone's on 10%. Oh, Will Baggus. You're always coming through, Will. Thank you, man. Merry Christmas, Will. I appreciate that. Alright. Let's do the raffle. Alright. The first winner is number 2 on the list. Samantha Annette. You are the first winner. Samantha, you've been a big supporter. Let's see.
Here you go, Messiah.
Thank you, sir. Samantha, you won a signed Recovery from Blow book. Will Baggus, we sent you one. It got returned. You got one coming as well. Samantha Annette, you won a signed Recovery from Blow, signed by Mirtha and Christina Jung, the real people in the movie Blow. I'm about to record the audiobook. I'm going to narrate it for them. But I'm going to send you, Samantha, a signed copy, signed by both of them. So congratulations on that. Hold on. Do you have a babysitter for you to make sure you don't use? Yeah, I know Christina is one of my best friends. I know her very well. And her dad, Boston George, did a guest appearance on my album. And that's going to come out, I want to say like probably January 2nd or 3rd. It's done. The only thing we have to do is press it. And the sound engineer is on vacation now, but he gets back on the 29th. So probably by the 3rd. So Samantha, you were our first winner. I got to write a list of winners. Samantha Blow book. All right. Let's get on to the next. That's right. Love San Francisco. How did you send it, Steven? I don't believe you. I think you're just saying that. Anybody that knows if I ever forget it to send a book or blotter, I always make it right and send something extra on top of it. It's happened a few times because I'm disorganized, but I always make it right. I think you're trolling. I don't believe you. Steven, you're just a bitch. You just hate your life so much. You want to go on the internet and you want to troll other people. Get a life, dude. All right. Number 20.
Stop rejecting.
Renee Lamp. Renee Lamp. Let's see what you won, Renee. I love Lamp. So what? Renee, you won a signed copy of my book, Wasting Talent. Renee Lamp. Wasting Talent. All right. Let's see. There's some good shit on here. signed Fight Club. That's what I would want to win. I love that movie. All right. Number 3. That Lab Girl. Lab Girl. You just won. 3 girls. Lab Girl. You won a signed Bully DVD. Lab Girl. Lab Girl, congratulations. You won a signed Bully DVD signed by my buddy Nick Stahl. One of my favorite movies of all time. That's a badass prize. Congratulations, Lab Girl. That's sick. I love Bully. I love Nick. Nick is going to be playing Damien in the film version of my book. And he's the shit. I love Nick. I need to plug my phone in. Where do I plug it in? Hold on, guys. Let's see. Hold on.
Right here, yeah.
Where?
Right here.
Where? Okay. All right. Let's see.
That work?
Let's see.
You charged?
Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm back, guys. All right, number 9. All right, let's see. Number 9 is Mike Speece. Mike, where you at? You just won something, Mike. Mike Speece. You just won the signed executive summary for the film version of my book, signed by the entire cast, the director, the producers. That is a fucking dope prize. When that movie comes out, and if it does well, that's going to be worth something someday. So it's an executive summary. It's like it's a folder with like analytics and like budgetary stuff. It's like what we pass around when we go to meetings when we're discussing the project, when we were in development for it. And it's signed by everybody. And Mike Speece, you won that. That's a dope prize. Congrats. Executive summary. All right. Next, we have number 7. Jason Nipper. Jason Nipper, where are you at? Are you here, Jason Nipper? An internet would. Are you talking prison stuff? Prison's so lame. I can keister a fucking bowling pin with my comrades and go ass to ass. Okay. Jason Nipper, you just want a pocket butthole. That is the first pocket butthole of the evening, and it will not be the last. Jason Nipper. You just won a pocket butthole. Pocket butt, and it is signed pocket butthole, and it is used. That's okay. So let's go on to the next one. Number 21. Brett White. Brett White, where you at? Where you at, Brett White? Brett White, you just won a signed copy of my book, Wasting Talent. Brett White. There you go, Brett. You got a signed copy of my book. Merry Christmas. Okay, let's go on to the next. Number 19. Who we got on number 19? Jeremy Harris. Jeremy Harris, who is the fucking man, has become a good friend of mine. Love this dude. Let's see what you won. Signed Hollywood Vampire album by Johnny Depp. And get a signed Hollywood Vampire album. That's fucking dope. Johnny's the man. Jeremy. Hollywood Vampire. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Number 8. Number 8. Cheryl Rice. Cheryl Rice. Cheryl Rice. What did you win, Cheryl? You won a signed Fight Club DVD. That's fucking awesome. Signed by the writer of Fight Club, Jim Oles. Cheryl Rice. That's gonna take a couple weeks to get to you because I have to meet up with Jim and have him sign it, but I will get it done. That's the one thing that I didn't have an extra signed copy of. So that's gonna take a couple weeks, but you have it coming. He's a lot lizard. Okay. Number... Will Baggus. Will Baggus, what did you win? What did you win, Will? Will Baggus, you won a pocket butthole. Fuck yeah, Will. Will, you've had my back from the beginning. And you got a pocket butthole. I'll send you the only pocket butthole I haven't used. How's that? Pocket butthole. All right. Next. Nathan Mays. Nathan Mays, are you here? Nathan Mays, you won a signed copy of my book. Wasting Talent. Nathan Mays, you won a signed copy of Wasting Talent. Merry Christmas. Number 15. Monty Harris. Monty Harris, you won a signed pocket butthole. Monty Harris. That's awesome, Monty. Thank you for all your support. Pocket butthole. And then we got 2 blotters left. Number 14. Dan Mack. Dan Mack, you won a blotter. Merry Christmas, Dan. And the very last one is number 13. Rick Davis. Rick Davis, you won a blotter. Thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate you. All right, I will send this stuff out to you guys. Cheryl, the signed Fight Club's the only thing that I actually don't have in my possession, but I'm good friends with Jim. I will get that. I will get him to do it. And I appreciate you guys. That concludes the Christmas raffle for this program. Thank you guys for sending donations, helping me out. Even the trolls that go, "You're high. Ooh, ooh, ooh." Shut the fuck up. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares even if I was? Like, and what do you think I'm doing? Have you seen video footage of me when I actually am doing, like, hard drugs? I'm a completely different person. Yes. Why are you so sweaty? Because I'm beating off. What do you mean? All right, so let's Let's see. Hit like if you think he's high. Thank you. You were Moses, and I'm sending you the package. I got you. All right. So do you guys want to hear a story now? I spoke to Johnny Depp and he says he doesn't know you. Okay. Steve, what a fucking weirdo. This guy subscribes to my channel, comes on here and just, you're high. You don't know Johnny Depp. Ooh, boo, boo. Ooh, boo, boo. What a loser. All right, guys. Story time. Let's hit the light. Okay, so before the story, so like I said, we're done with it. Johnny was like the last thing that I was waiting on. He sent it. He did a Hunter S. Thompson, Raoul Duke skit. It's fucking badass. Like, I'm a diehard Hunter fan, and to have Johnny like do a 2-minute skit on my album as Hunter, as Raoul Duke, is the shit. Like, I'm so stoked on it. And then Paul, I'm going to include him, and I'm going to include him just to, I'm going to include him just to honor him. But the sound engineer, the guy that actually has to press the album and get it up on iTunes and get it up on Spotify, get it up on all the different platforms, he's not going to be back till the 29th. It's going to take him 2 days to do so. I talked to him a couple days ago, so I'm thinking it's going to be out like January 2nd or 3rd. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm sending out about 65 of them for free to the first people that ever donated to my channel. Remember a while ago I said I was going to do that, and I'm pressing 2,500 albums, and then it's going to be up on iTunes, Spotify, and there's another one. I think it's going to... My manager was saying that like eBay has a music platform that you can buy it off of. I didn't even know that eBay did shit like that, but I guess there's going to be a number of ways that you can download it, and I'm really proud of it. It's going to be it's a trilogy. It's Drug Stories for Truckers Volume 1. There's going to be 3 of them. So Johnny didn't slap Amber Heard. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. She's a conniving, lying fucking hoe, dude. Liar. He's like the sweetest guy in the world. If he hit her, how come all the other girls, Kate Moss, all the other girls that he's dated, Winona Ryder, how come they have said that he was the most gentle person in the world? People that he was with for over a decade said that he'd never hit them, never even came close to it. But all of a sudden, on one girlfriend that's fame hungry, all of a sudden he hit her? Bullshit. Bullshit. She's a liar. I would bet my life on the fact that she's lying. I know she's lying. Fact. Steven Scheel? Who is this guy? I'm going to remove him. Hide user on this channel. Yeah, bye, Steven. I got rid of that weirdo. You're a liar. Bye-bye, Steve. You're a liar. What am I lying about, Colin? Let me get at you, fool. We'll get rid of Colin again. All right. Steven's dead. He's gone. All right. So I don't remember where we were in the juvenile delinquency story series, but when I was 17, I got into heroin, and I got into a really interesting situation with a stripper when I was 17, and I'm going to tell that story right now. All right. Fucking palabra, bro. So when I was 16, I got really into coke, and I had explained on, I think, Juvenile Delinquency 2 or 3, my best friend growing up in high school, his parents had beat him up when we were on mushrooms, and I went up to, like, they lived in this huge mansion. His dad got caught selling helicopters to North Korea in the 80s and went to federal prison. Somehow, this is his stepdad, and he's somehow he was still a billionaire. He got out of the feds, he was still a billionaire. He lived in this, like, how many bedrooms? Like, 20 bedroom house?
25.
25 bedroom house, right?
The
So-
guest house was like an actual house. The pool house was a house.
The pool house was like a 4-bedroom house. Yeah. It was like a billionaire. And it was like a $30 million home that this guy's stepdad lived in.
Avocado orchard.
And I went up there, and if you remember from the story, his parents beat him up because everybody crucified me because I said that the Mustang had 4 doors, but I know it was a Mustang, but it must have been the front door that got knocked off because we were on a one-way street. His parents beat him up, and my parents ended up pretty much adopting him. I mean, he moved in with me, and they had custody over him for a couple years, when I was 16 all the way to almost 18. And he's a really bad drug addict. Him and I aren't friends to this day. He's just pulled a bunch of scumbag shit to me over and over again. And the motherfucker has like 6 felonies, 7 felonies. He's never been to prison. I mean, I'm just saying, if you get 6 or 7 felonies and you don't go to prison, something's usually rotten in Denmark. You know what I mean? And I don't trust the guy. And he just pulls a bunch of bullshit moves. A lot of people in Santa Barbara think he's a rat. I'd have to side with that. And we'll get into why I hate this guy so much in later stories. But when he moved in with me, we started getting into cocaine. Really bad. This is when I was 16. And remember, I was finding my parents' savings bonds sporadically. I'd go up to their room and I'd be searching for money, and I'd find a savings bond for like $1,800. Well, when you're 16, $1,800 is a lot of money. And I used that money to spend it on me and this guy's coke habit. I mean, we had like a real cocaine addiction in high school. We were doing probably about a ball a day. We're doing like 3.5 grams of cocaine a day back then. And I had already been sent away to those programs for troubled adolescents. And I'd come back, and when I came back is when I got into coke. So from 16, and then when I was 16, I got arrested for selling weed at high school. And remember, I told them that the Christian kid was like a drug kingpin, and they like raided his house, and I was just fucking around during that period. So I'd gotten expelled, and when I got expelled the second time from Santa Barbara High, it became like a full-blown cokehead. And that summer, I met a girl that was 21. I talk about her in my book, Wasting Talent. Her name was Jill, and she was going to the community college. So now, my birthday's August 3rd, so I turned 17 August 3rd, and I met her right around the time that I turned 17. She was 21, and she went to the community college, and she was selling coke. The reason that I met her was because I used to buy cocaine off her. You know, she was like my connection. She was a few years older than me, and before I knew it, her and I started hooking up, and she became my girlfriend. I dated her for about 8 months. From the summer before my junior year in high school and my entire junior year in high school, I dated this girl, and she was in college, and I was in high school, and she was selling coke. And, you know, when you're dating a coke dealer, obviously you're doing coke for free all day long. And I started getting kind of weird. You know, that's when I first started getting like really bad paranoid fits, you know, where I'd be like, you know, looking out peepholes and looking out the blinds, and thank you, Mike, looking under the door to like look under the crack of the door to see if there's any light movement or anything. You know, typical like coke or cokehead or tweaker behavior. So one night, we used to hang out at this guy Orlando's house. He actually went on to be quasi-successful musician. I love his shit. His name's Leo Napier. This is like performing name. He was on The Voice, and he has a pretty good solo career right now. He's done collaborations with Raekwon from Wu-Tang, and who else? Grizz.
Grizz, yeah.
He did some shit with Grizz.
With them at Coachella.
He performed with those guys at Coachella in front of like however many tens of thousands of people. So he's doing pretty good. But in high school, we used to hang out at his house all the time. He's the same age as me. And it would be like all these his dad was never home, so we would always just be like partying at his house, you know? And the group of people that I hung out with in high school was like exclusively like the cokehead crowd. You know, there's always that crowd in high school. You go to a keg party and you kind of like see the group kind of like a sea of dope fiend fish going to the bathroom to snort blow at a party. I was in that school of dope fiends. And we'd always hang out at this house and do coke. One night I'm over there, there's probably like 10 people over there. And I've been up like 3 days. I'm really geeked out on coke. And she's like, hey, she didn't like the way I was acting. You know, it was like she had some of her older friends. She was 21, I was 17, but that's like a pretty big age gap. Like 17 to 21 is like two different worlds. And she had some of her older like guy friends over there. And I guess that I was weirding them out because I was like pacing around and I was going up to her like, hey, you didn't talk to me in 5 minutes. Do you not love me anymore? You know, just being like a weirdo. And I guess these guys were weirded out by me. So she's like, hey, honey, you need to chill out. Can you smoke some opium? She didn't say heroin. She said opium. I'm sure I would have done heroin if I knew that that's what I was doing, but she didn't even present it as heroin. She presented it as opium. I was like, yeah. So she put it on tinfoil and she showed me how to chase the dragon, which is something I only did in high school. I don't think I've ever done that as an adult. Once I started doing IV heroin, I never smoked it anymore. But I was with this group of people at this house. There was like 10 of us, and we were all passing around foil, chasing the dragon, smoking what she said was opium, but we were smoking heroin. And I loved it. You know, it was like, I felt like my entire life before that moment was drafty. And that was like the first time that I felt some sort of blanket not to feel the draft anymore. You know, it finally made me feel comfortable, where I just didn't really care about anything. You know, it made me completely disassociate from reality, and I love that about heroin. I've heard at AA meetings people talk about alcohol with that same almost romanticism, and I don't want you to think that I romanticize heroin, because it's a fucking disgusting, despicable addiction that's ruined my life, and it just killed one of my best friends a month ago. But it was that feeling that I was looking for my entire life. I think a lot of the reason why heroin's so compatible for me specifically is because my ADD is so out of control. Like, I have racing thoughts that are just so annoying. It's so hard for me to do normal, trivial, day-to-day tasks. Just to remember to, like, I'm very messy. And not, like, my girl is clean. Most people that I've lived with are very clean. I'm like the biggest dirtbag ever. I'm that kind of guy that has a fucking cheeseburger underneath my seat for months, and I only start knowing it's there because it's like it smells like a dead body in my car. I'm like one of those guys. And it's not because I enjoy being dirty. It's just because my racing thoughts, like, I'll like be eating a cheeseburger, put it under my seat, and like forget about it because there's so many racing thoughts. And what heroin did for me is it finally shut the thoughts the fuck up. It just kind of, quelled the deluge of thoughts that I had just inherently because I have ADD. So instantly I became a heroin addict, even though I didn't even know that I was doing heroin. I thought it was opium, and my best friend that was living at me, we called it the possum. It's what we always called it. That was like our little like nickname for it. We'd be like, hey, you want to do the possum? And him and I became junkies. I'd go to high school and I'd smoke heroin on tinfoil, and like nobody was doing that in high school. Like, me and this guy were the only people that were really doing heroin at my high school. And I remember when people started finding out, when like the rumors started circulating that we were doing heroin, people were really grossed out by that. I remember a girl, like this girl that I dated for a while, she had like stopped me in the hallway one day, and she's like, dude, I heard you're fucking doing heroin. Is that true? And I denied it, and she's like, dude, that is so gross. Like, that's so gross. You're disgusting. How could you do that? And I don't know if she knew that I was only smoking it. I don't know if that made any difference. I think people don't like a lot of people that don't know much about heroin don't even know you can smoke it. They just assume that you're using needles. But I remember, like, it was the first time at 17 that I ever felt ashamed of my drug addiction. Like, I felt like I didn't want to be some grimy heroin addict, and that's what I was. And I didn't even like know that I was really doing heroin in the beginning. I really thought I was doing opium. And around that time, Jill had introduced me to this guy named Pablo. And Pablo was probably like 35 years old, just this grimy ass drug dealer. I was 17, and he basically like wanted me to start selling his drugs to my high school. He wanted me to sell coke, and he wanted me to sell heroin, and he wanted me to sell meth. It was just, he only sold like hard drugs like that. And I ended up like being a runner for this guy for a couple years. And at 17, what he was doing is he was getting me into there's not a lot of nightclubs in Santa Barbara. We don't have some thriving nightlife here. It's not like LA, and it's not like a lot of other major cities. Thank you, Samantha. Merry Christmas. You won something. I forget what you won. I think a blow book. We don't have a lot of nightclubs, but the few that we had, this guy Pablo would get me to go to these nightclubs, and he would tell the bouncers that I was going in there, pay them off, and he'd have me go into the bathroom stalls, and I would literally be in the handicap bathroom stall, and I would just serve people coke all night. At 17 years old, I was doing this all the time, and like Jill pretty much was like making me do this, because she's like, dude, you're mooching off me all the time. I'm not just gonna pay for your drug addiction, because now I'm addicted to coke and heroin. I'm 17. And she was getting over me just like leeching off her all the time. So she's like, you need to start being a runner for Pablo so you can have your own money and your own dope. I'm like, okay. So I started doing that for a while. And I remember, after I kind of was doing the rounds at the nightclubs, he started having me go to college parties. And he would have me go there with like 50, 60 grams of coke already made up in little baggies just to go serve people. Like, it wasn't like the nightclub. At the nightclub situation, I was in that stall. People knew that I was like serving right there. At college parties, he just had me like basically going up to people and be like, hey, you want to buy blow? And I would sell 50, 60 grams in a night at 17 years old. And then he would pay for, like, I was making money, and I was sustaining my own habit. So one night I go to this party, and there's this one guy that has a bunch of money. He's he buys like 5 grams off me, like throughout the night. Like, he buys one, comes up to me like 30, 40 minutes later, buys a couple more. Pretty sure the guy's like playing Santa Claus with it. He's just at this party, just getting everybody high. And at the end of the night, it's probably like 2 a.m, somehow he ends up like linking up with me, and he's like, hey, where are you gonna go after this? And at the time, I was staying with one of my friends. He was like 18. His dad was a big time stockbroker, and he had passed away, and he had left my friend a house. My friend Roland, who we haven't talked about yet, but absolutely, I don't even know how to articulate this guy. Basically, just like the cliff notes with him, he was like a really normal guy, always good at like surfing, skateboarding. He was good at fighting. He beat up the school bully. Remember one time we were at the beach, and like we were like 15, and he fucked some like 40-year-old girl. Like, he was always doing like legendary stuff. His dad died when he was 18, and he gave him a house, and he gave him like $3 or $4 million. And like over like a 2 or 3 year period after that, he just completely lost his mind on drugs. He was doing a lot of meth. and then he was doing a lot of hallucinogenic drugs, and it got to the point where he lost his house. He went to a psych ward, and now he's homeless. I see him around town once in a while. He's always home. I always like buy him a pack of cigarettes or give him like whatever money I can. Really sad situation. But when I was 17, he was 18. He had just inherited this house, and he was really into like doing drugs. So it was kind of like on the weekends when I was going to these nightclubs and selling the coke, or when I was going to parties, this was kind of like my home base, you know? Like I'd just be out all night, and then I could show up there at 5 in the morning, and I could just open the front door and go pass out on the couch, and he didn't care. So this guy that I had met up with at this party that I said I sold the 5 grams to throughout the night, he's like, where are you going to go? I'm like, hey, I'm going to my boy's house. I'm just going to go pass out. Probably I might drink a little bit and just pass out. And he's like, hey, you think we can get some girls to come over? I'm like, yeah. I was like, this dude's house is wide open. He lets me do whatever I want there. We used to throw parties at this guy's house all the time. Like that, we wouldn't even ask him. We'd just be like hanging out there, and like 100 people would show up, and we'd just get a keg, and you know, this went on all the time there. It was like one of those houses that was wide open. So I go there, and at this point, Roland is already getting weird, and he's doing meth. So like he's in his room, like doing whatever tweakers do, and I'm with this other guy. Let's just call him Travis. Let's call him Travis. It's not his real name, for obvious reasons. You know, after I finish the story, you'll know why I'm not going by his real name. But Travis is like, look, let's just do blow all night. We'll get girls over here. I'll pay for all of it. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that, Mike. Merry Christmas. I'll pay for the coke all night. Let's get girls over. This guy was like really coked out, drunk, and horny, wanted girls over. And he was like older than me. I'm like in high school. I'm like, dude, I only know my girl that's like 21, and I know high school girls. He's like, I don't even care. I'm like, I'm calling girls and like seeing, you know, trying to get girls to come over, but it's like 2 in the morning. And everyone knows at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whatever girls are gonna go over somewhere have already been snatched up by somebody. You know, there's no girls were gonna come over at that time. It was like way too late. It's like 3 in the morning now at this point. So, and like he's all bugged out. He's like, yeah, dude, maybe we should get some hookers. Santa Barbara's like, and I'm 17, dude. I'm really green. I don't know much. I don't know anything about hookers. I've never even been to a strip club. I'm 17. The only like nightclubs or bars I've gotten into were when Pablo was like getting me to go into the bathroom stalls, but I never even been to a strip club. So back then I remember we got in the yellow pages, and I'm like, what are they called? Aren't they called like escorts or something? And I'm like looking it up in the yellow pages, and of course, like under escort, there's like, you know, call Luscious Louisa or whatever, and she'll come over and dance for you for $100 an hour. And this guy was willing to pay for whatever it was. So I'm like looking up strippers under escort in the yellow pages. And I finally, you know, like find one, and I'm showing him like the picture. It's like in the yellow page picture, some girl in a thong, and he's just super perved out. He's like, yeah, bro, that one. I'm like, I don't think it's gonna be that one from the fucking picture, man. He's like, that one, call him. I'm like, all right. So I call this, you know, whatever stripper company, and some guy picks up. He's like, hey, what do you want? He's all rough and shit. I'm like, hey man, I'm trying to order a girl. And he's like, she can be there in an hour. He's like, no funny stuff. Don't ask to fuck her. Don't touch her. He's giving me like all these Fight Club rules with her. I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm relaying this back to Trevor, who's like so coked out and so perverted and weird that he's just kind of like, you know, like nodding at me. Like, he seems to be understanding what I'm saying, but I can tell he has like malicious intent, whatever. About an hour later, this old Cadillac rolls up into Roland's driveway, and this girl walks out. She's wearing like some silver costume. She has big stilettos on. She has titty tassels on, like you can see them. Like she's wearing some like tank top, and you can see the titty tassels coming out. And she's like, hey, I'm Jessica, what's up? And she's all like perky and vivacious, and it's like 4 in the morning. You know, she's acting like it's 2 in the afternoon. And she comes in, And she's like, hey, do you mind if I go to the bathroom? We're like, no. So she's in the bathroom for like 30 minutes. Who knows what she's doing? Probably smoking meth or something. And she comes out, and this guy Travis is like literally licking his lips. Like, he's so horny, it's like disturbing me. I'm sitting on the couch not feeling comfortable. This guy's like in his 20s, I'm 17. We have some stripper over, and then my weirdo friend Roland is like tweaking in his room by himself. So she comes and she starts dancing, and she's like giving us lap dances, and this guy Travis is paying for all of it. And at one point I'm like, hey, we gotta give Roland a lap dance. Roland doesn't even know we're there. You know what I mean? Like, I go to Roland's room and I knock on the door, and he like comes out. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, hey, come here, man. I'm gonna give you a lap dance. And he got so uncomfortable. It was like really, I felt embarrassed for him. He was like blushing like a little kid, you know? And so he ended up leaving. He probably tripped out. Like, I'm there with some random guy. There's a stripper there giving lap dances. He didn't even know we were there. So she does her little show for like an hour, and so anyway, my friend Travis is like, he's like, hey man, ask her if she'll suck my dick for money. I'm like, why don't you ask her that? You're like 8 years older than me, dude. I'm in high school. You ask her shit like that. I'm like a little kid compared to you, weirdo. And he's like, dude, see if she'll suck my dick. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm like, go up to her. I'm like, hey man, will you suck my friend's dick for money? And she's like, looks like she's mad, and she's like, I'm gonna give you a phone number. Call me in 1 hour. Like, all whispering it. Like, I felt like she was like, had like a wire on her or something. It was really weird. So she's like, call me in 1 hour. And she's like, and take a taxi over there. This is before Uber. She's like, take a cab. Don't use personal cars. We're like, what the fuck? And I'm telling Travis, I'm like, look, man, I just want to go to sleep. I'm not trying to like hook up with the stripper. Like, why don't you just go over there? He's like, he's so coked out that he's like, no, man, you have to usher me over there. I'm like, what is that? What the fuck does that mean? Usher you over there? You can't go there by yourself? He's like, no, man, you need to go with me. I'm like, all right. So we end up taking a cab there about an hour later. And she lives in this like little mobile home type thing. And she has all this S&M gear like all over the walls. Like these weird little leather skirts and whips and like cowbells and shit. Like really just a bunch of bizarre S&M stuff. And Travis at this point, oh, and she's smoking meth, right? So she's smoking meth and he starts smoking meth. If he was acting weird, coked out, once he starts smoking meth, he's just acting completely bizarre. Like he's like so stuck on her. He's just staring at her. It's making me uncomfortable. I feel like I'm like hanging out with a fucking sex offender. And at a certain point, I'm like, hey man, I don't want to be here. Like, what are we doing? I want to go to sleep. I have to like, I have a biology test tomorrow, dude. He's like, oh, you can't leave. And I end up leaving. So I take off and that's it, right? That's the end of the night. Okay. So about a week later, I'm at my parents' house and I get a call from Jessica, the stripper. I had left him there, all twacked out on meth, in like the throes of some like sexual fucking spell or whatever he was in. He was like literally hypnotized by perversion. I had no idea what happened. And she calls me and she's like, Travis raped me. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, Travis raped me. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, are you serious? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, what happened? And she said, after you left, he started getting physical with me. I told him that I would only give him a blowjob. And he ends up holding me down. He ends up raping me. I have his semen on a towel. And I'm thinking about pressing charges. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know this guy that well, right? And I'm like, I I'm like, I don't really know that guy that well. I only knew him. I had met him that night, and I think I dealt with him one other. I think I dealt with him on one other occasion, something coke related. It's like a local cokehead, a few years older than me. I think I'd met him through Jill. I definitely met him once before this, so I didn't know him that well, and he relapsed. Fucking weirdos, dude. And so I'm like, what does this have to do with me? And she's like, well, you're basically an accessory to rape. I'm like, how? I was like, why? And she's like, because you're the one that had asked me if I would do sexual stuff for him for money. So you're pretty much liable for this. And I'm like, I hang up on her. And I end up calling this dude Travis, and I'm like, hey man, what happened that night with the stripper, Jessica? And he's like, yeah, I ended up fucking her. I'm like, well, she's calling me and she's saying that you raped her. And he's like, no, dude, I gave her $1,000 and we fucked. I'm like, damn, you paid that hood rat $1,000? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I was on one that night. And I'm like, well, she's saying that you raped her and that she's thinking about pressing charges. And he's like, that's complete bullshit. He's like, she's probably just trying to extort us for money. He's like, I've heard of strippers doing this before. He's like, you need to get a tape recorder. And I had like an old tape recorder. Like it was like one of my dad's, like with like a little like tape cassette thing. He's like, you need to call her back on speakerphone and you need to get it out of her that she's basically extorting you. Like somehow record her saying it, because I promise you I didn't rape her. And I'm like, all right. So I call her back and I'm like, hey Jessica, how are you? And I'm playing like, I'm like good cop now. I'm like, hey, I talked to Travis and he has a different, he's saying something different happened that night. He's saying that you guys had sex and that he paid you $1,000. And she's like, he didn't pay me anything. He raped me. And I'm like, if that's true, I'm really sorry to hear that. Obviously, like I'm not okay with rape. But I'm like, so when you say you're thinking about pressing charges, what do you mean by that? Why are you calling me? What's up? And she's like, okay, honestly, and she starts going into this long, like, soliloquy about how she had been, like, sexually abused growing up and how she could, what was the phrase she used? She could turn an eye to it if Travis paid this month's rent and next month's rent, which was like $3,600. I think that's what the amount was. And I have this all on tape recorder, right? So she's like, I want him to pay this month's rent and next month's rent. And because I'm a survivor of sexual abuse, I'm used to it. I'll just make it go away. And I promise you the whole problem will disappear. If you guys don't pay the rent for this month and next month, then I'm gonna be forced to bring this towel with the semen to the police department, and I'm gonna implicate you in the whole thing, saying that you were the one that you're an accessory to the whole thing. You provided transportation to him, and you're the one that initially made the proposal for you guys to come over to my house, and I'm just recording this whole thing. So I even say to her on the phone call, I'm like, Jessica, it sounds to me like you're extorting me. It sounds to me like you're fucking blackmailing me. You're telling me that if we don't pay your rent this month and next month, that you're gonna call the police and say that we were involved in some sort of rape with you. Is that correct? And she's like, well, I mean, for lack of better words, yes. As soon as she says that, I just know that I have her. So I stay on the phone with her for a little while, and I'm like, okay, well, let me talk to Travis. Let me see what's up. I was like, I'm only 17. I'm a minor. I don't think I can get in too much trouble, but I definitely want to make sure that my friend Travis doesn't get in trouble. So let me present your offer to him, and I'll get back to you. And she's like, okay. She's like, you have until today to do it, or I'm going to the police. I'm like, okay. So I call Travis back and I explain the situation. I'm like, man, she's trying, she for sure, she like admitted on the phone that she's basically trying to blackmail us, that she's trying to extort us. And he's like, you have it on the recording? And I said, yeah, like I said, I did it on one of those old school tape recorders. So we came up with this plan. He's like, call her back and let's meet somewhere in public and put the tape in your tape player, and we'll go out there and we're going to pretend like we're going to give her the money, and we'll just start blasting the fucking recording of her pretty much threatening to extort her. So like we'll, you know, it'll go down in like a big way, and we'll scare her off that way. Anyway, this was his plan. Remember, I'm a teenager. I'm 17 at the time. I'm just kind of going with what he's saying. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I call her back and I'm like, hey, all right, he's willing to pay you. He wants to meet somewhere. And she's like, where does he want to meet? And I'm like, I don't know, a public place. And she's like, okay, I'm going to call you back with the location. She calls me back a couple hours later and she says, meet me up on Gibraltar Hill. Gibraltar Hill is like the biggest mountain road in Santa Barbara. It overlooks the entire town. And it's just this big, desolate, mountainy road that like looks over Santa Barbara. You know, we go up there all the time. Like we do acid up there, just has a beautiful view. So we like a lot of people hang out up there. People like shoot guns up there. You can pretty much do whatever. And that's where she wanted to meet. So I pick up Travis. I'm driving my 85 Volvo at the time, and I don't have a CD player. All I have is a tape deck. So I put the tape in, and we're like all ready to play it for her. We roll up to, she wanted to meet at like the first bend. And so we go up there, and she's in like this like old Cadillac, and she's with like this grimy ass black dude, right? He looks like the quintessential pimp. He's like dressed like a pimp, and it's like really, it really blows my mind because everything is so like stereotypical and cliche. I'm just like, what the fuck? This is so random. And so we pull up there. He's in this Cadillac. He's like, he's mad dogging us. He's wearing like Oakleys, and like, we're like, we get up there, and Travis had got like a lunch bag, and he had just put a couple pairs of socks in it. So it looked like there was something in it. And their car's like on one side of the road, and we pull up and we see them. And I have him, like he's in the passenger side, and I'm like, hey, go in the back seat and I'll pull up to them. So he goes in the back seat, and like he's behind me. So he's like on the driver's side. Roll down the window. And she's like, what's up? You got our money? And he's like, play the tape, play the tape. And I go to play the tape, and a fucking Misfit song just starts blasting out. It's like I put the wrong tape in. And like, so we didn't get the effect that we wanted to. It's just some punk rock song just like starts blasting out of my stereo, and I'm bumping it. It's like coming out really loud. Travis is like, what are you doing? I'm like, fuck. So I like pop the tape out, and I have all these different tapes, and none of them are labeled. I thought that I'd put the right tape in. So like as I'm fumbling for the car, and he's approaching it, and finally I find the tape, I put it in, and I press play, and you just hear Jessica's voice come on. It's loud. Like my car stereo, it had like subwoofers, and it just sounded, it was like echoing. And he's walking around to the car. We're like, I don't know, we're probably like 15, 20 feet from him. And he stops when he hears Jessica's voice kind of like echoing out of my car. And Travis is just smiling. He throws the bag at them, and we peel off. So they heard that we had it, and he throws this bag of socks. I have no idea why he did that, but we like have to go back around, and we end up getting out of there. Never heard from this girl again. So obviously they knew that we had them because we had her on tape threatening to extort us. And all they got out of it was a bag of dirty socks. Palabra. So that is that story. That is the end. What have you guys been talking about? Well, I've been telling the story. Why are there so many fake people in Hollywood? I don't know. Why are there so many fake people everywhere? Have you been on Facebook lately? I don't think it's exclusive to Hollywood. Fake people everywhere.
They're paid to lie.
How did she have my number? Because I used the phone to order the service. They have to do a verification call when you use one of those services. You have to like have a callback number. And I'm the one that placed the order. That's why I was in the situation to begin with, because I'm the one that made the call. Hollywood, yeah, I guess Hollywood's worse. I mean, I don't know. It seems like nowadays there's fake people everywhere. I think social media, now that we're broadcasting our entire life, and just, I mean, everybody's doing that. I think culture is getting faker as a whole just because of that. Fake? Drew Star, I recognize you. You're always trolling my shit. No, she wasn't hot. My Christmas was awesome. The Mike Virgin story in my book is based on the Mike Virgin story that I tell on the channel. And the Mike's Virgin story on the channel is true. The version in my book is not true. It's like fictionalized. But the version that I tell on my channel is pretty close to accurate. I changed some of the central events and some of the chronology around so that I couldn't get in trouble. There's some pretty heavy stuff in that story. But yeah, that story's true. Did I really? That's his real name. Fuck. This. Nah, I haven't skated. Merry Christmas to all of you. Yeah, you know, I take 3 8-milligram strips a day, and I smoke herb at night. That's it. Hello. I'm not at liberty to say, just saying. So, anyway, Merry Christmas to all of you. I certainly appreciate you guys. I really want to expand the channel in the new year. I have a lot of stuff that I plan on doing. The reason that I started the channel to begin with was because the documentary is coming out next May. And pretty much all the stories that I tell, I mean, for the most part, the main stories like, you know, I don't know, like my Fed case, the pimping and pandering, my marriage, different toxic relationships, most of my addiction, a lot of my life's been documented. So a lot of the stories that I tell, I actually have footage and pictures to back it up when the documentary releases. So the whole point that I started this channel before the documentary comes out is to like complement the documentary experience. Like by the time it comes out, I want you guys to be really pumped up for it. And you're gonna actually get to see footage of all this and see pictures of it. People are always saying, what does Jenny look like? What does Casey look like? What does this girl look like? What does he look like? Obviously I have pictures of all these people, but I wanna wait until the documentary to really like show everything. And I feel like it's gonna tie everything together, and I think it's gonna be like a better experience if we just wait. That's why I'm not like uploading as many pictures and footage. And YouTube flags me for a lot of like archival footage that I've tried to post. I've gotten a couple strikes, so I don't post that stuff anymore. Thank you, Dread Pirate Roberts. Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited for the documentary too. I feel like it's gonna be life-changing. Like it might not be necessarily a completely positive thing. I mean, it's gonna be the kind of thing where like I'm gonna go to a restaurant and there's gonna be somebody that was watching me smoke crack with trannies on Netflix, and they're gonna be like, look, it's that guy. I don't know if that's like necessarily gonna be the kind of thing that I'm gonna be cool with my entire life, you know? So I'm ambivalent about the documentary because I really put myself out there. But I kind of look at it as a statement. It's like, it's really hard for me to get conventional work now. This last time that I got out of prison, I have so many felonies now, and it's been really difficult to get orthodox employment to the point where I'm like basically willing to put it all out there in a documentary because I feel like, you know, I already made the mistakes in my life. I may as well present them in a fashion that can hopefully dissuade other people from making the same mistakes that I made. I definitely don't want my son to, I want him to play the cards that were dealt to him differently than the way that I had. Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Yeah, the next relapse video I'll do tomorrow. I'm up in Santa Barbara right now. I've just been enjoying my first Christmas with my son. You know, last year I was in prison for it, and as my dad mentioned, wow, thank you, Eric. I really appreciate that, brother. Thank you. You know, as I mentioned, as my dad mentioned, the last 15 Christmases, I've been in prison for 8 of them. I mean, I'm like at the point in my life where I want to turn it around. And last year, you know, my son had already been born, and I was in state prison last year for Christmas. So this is like a really special Christmas for me because it's the first one I get to spend with my son, with my parents. We're all together. I had a really nice time today. It was just a really nice day. And that's the reason I haven't been posting the last few days. And then it was really shitty to find out that my friend Nick Kempton had passed away. Oh, I know, Samantha. These people are ridiculous. If I like, there's videos of me on heroin. When I'm on heroin, I'm like, I'm horrible. I'm like, I don't. It's like, you know how there's people that drink and they only drink to get drunk. I only do heroin to get as fucking annihilated as possible. Like, or I like can't even talk. Like, I don't even want to be conscious. That's why I do heroin. I'm not a functioning heroin addict. Believe me. And people just always want to hate, you know? Was it hard to hook up with Dirt Nat with Simon? No. He was a fan of the videos I done in my channel. Well, thank you, Roberto. I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, it sucks that Nick passed away. I don't know if you guys had remembered that he was doing like 30 years in prison for selling meth, right? And his case was kind of bullshit to begin with in the first place. It was like him and his wife were fighting. Cops came for a domestic dispute. Neighbors called the cops because they were screaming at each other at like 3 in the morning. And when they had come, by law, when a domestic dispute call comes in with the police department, they have to check out the residence. They don't have to like thoroughly inspect it like they did it in Nick's situation, but what they ended up doing with him is they went in the garage and they found a bunch of beakers with stuff that he had used to cook crystal meth in the past. He had 2 previous manufacturing charges. He wasn't doing it anymore at this point, but he still had like old equipment that he used to cook meth with, stuff he hadn't used for years. And they found it. They gave him another manufacturing case, and they gave him 30 years in federal prison. I met him when he was about 14 years into his 30-year term, so he still had a long time to go. Then he got cancer. They let him out on the Compassionate Care Act, and right when he got out, like they thought he had like a week or 2 to live. Right when he got out, his cancer went into remission. They didn't put him back in prison. They kind of just let him stay out. And so he got about a year that he wasn't expecting of freedom, which is fucking awesome. He called me like a couple months ago. He was crying. He's telling me how much he loved me and how much I meant to him. And he looked at me like a little brother. You know, he had saved me from all those vice lords when I was at FCI Oxford in Wisconsin. And, you know, the cancer came back and he passed away. It sucks. I mean, Paul and then Nick, like within the span of a month. It's been, the end of 2019 was kind of rocky for me. But, you know, so anyway, all right, guys. I appreciate you. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. I want to give Karina a break. I want to go make sure that my son's taken care of and give her a little harmony on Christmas. You guys are amazing, and I certainly appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share my life story and life experiences with you guys. Even if you think I'm loaded, thank you, Cody. Even if you think I'm loaded, You know, even if you, I don't know, any weird accusations. Thank you, Oakley. Appreciate that, man. I still love you guys. It's okay. You know, if it makes you feel better to troll people, I just want you to feel better. I'm here for you. So, Merry Christmas, Palabra. I love you all, and look out for more content. I'm gonna try to post something every day this week. I'll do more of the relapse videos tomorrow. I'll do another installment of that tomorrow, I promise. And I want to thank you so much, Robin. Appreciate that. I just want to say, you know, as I'm closing this, that I really love Nick and Paul. Those were two people that I can, like, honestly say that I loved, you know? Loved. You know, not just people that were acquaintances, people that, like, I had a brotherly connection with. And my life certainly won't be the same without them in it. And I'm really saddened by that. And I'm going to make 2020 a year that is about honoring them, to try to set the bar as high as I can, to achieve things that they're not able to now that they're gone, just to honor them and to have a tribute to them. I'm really saddened by it, and you can expect the album to come out January 3rd. I'm gonna dedicate it to Nick and Paul, and yeah, I'll check in with you guys soon. Let's try to start doing lives on Sundays as well. All right, guys, have a good night. I'm out of here. Palabra.